All right, in part one, we ended up talking about renaming variables, renaming indices if you wanted to do it, and also dropping observations or dropping entire columns of data. If you wanted to add data, adding columns or observations is quite easy to do. So for adding a column with no data, we would put in whatever the data frame name is, what is the column name, and we would set that to equal none. This code just creates a blank column with the value of none in each row. Okay, so let's do that. Let's create, we're going to say df, and we'll call this new variable. And I'm going to set that equal to none. Okay, so we're still dealing with df. Let's add this new variable. So we should see this go from 14 to 15 if I did it right. 14 to 15. Let's just see df.info. And I should now see a new variable called new variable, right? And it's set up as an object. Okay. If we wanted to add values to this new variable, we can pass a detailed string, in this case 13 plus million values, into the variable new variable. That's not this isn't practical. What if we were interested in the volume of alcohol sold? We don't have that variable right now, right? We don't see that variable. Well, if I want to know how much alcohol I've sold, we could multiply the sales quantity variable by the volume variable in the data. In this case, we will rename the column that we just created called new variable, and we'll rename that to volume sold. All right, so we're going to do that renaming first, then let's multiply the sales quantity by the volume. All right, so that's what we want to try to accomplish. All right, so let's rename the column first. We know how to do that. df.rename, and we want to rename oops, columns equals new variable, and we want to have that now look like volume sold. All right, and in place equals true. Okay, so I'm going to rename this new variable name. It's now going to be called volume sold. Then I'm going to take df volume sold, and I'm going to assign it values, right? So it's going to be df sales quantity times df volume. So now this variable is going to have a value put into it. All right, so let's first of all rename it. I'm going to, after each step, I'm going to put in df info, just so we can see those steps taking place. I'll copy that and put that right here. Okay, so let's run the renaming. Done that. I'm going to run df info. So now I've got volume sold, and it's an object. All right. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens when I run this. See if it will change to, because it should be an integer. Let's see. I'm going to run this. I want to see the info. Now it's an integer. Okay. So what happened here is I didn't have to change the type. It just recognized, Python's really good at recognizing that the type changed based on what you just did. Okay? So if we wanted to add a new row of data, maybe I had another observation that wasn't in there. If we wanted to add a new row, we can use the row index and add an observation. In this case, we want to add row index number 13,568,239. Right? We can place data into this row as well. The data that we put in here will need to be consistent with the D types that we see here in info. So it's going to be an object, an integer, etc., etc. Okay. So let's add an observation. Okay. So first of all, we want to create the observation. So we're going to put in df.loc, and we want to put into 13,568,239, and we're going to assign that to be equal to none. All right, so let's see if we add into df, we add one more row. We did. You can see that just went up by one. All right. Now let's put into df string location 13,568,239. Let's put in some values. So equals. We'll put in the first variable, say some stuff. The next one, we want that to be 99. The brand we'll make $9.99. The next one has to be an object, so description. So that's going to be made up booze. We want to, the next one is size, so that's going to be an object, so we'll call it a barrel. The next one is, you can see how tedious this is, right? So we're going to say the next one is sales quantity, so it needs to be an integer. We'll say that's 3,000. The sales dollars, we'll say that is 3 million. Comma, we're going to come back down here and do some more. So the sales price is 3,000. The sales date, and this is in 2021-12-21. So we'll do that. So the 21st of December, 2021. Let's see, next one is the volume. We'll say it's 5,000, so comma 5,000. The classification is an integer 1. Excise tax, we'll put that in as 0. Vendor number is 65. Vendor name, we'll put my name in here, Charlie. And last but not least, volume sold, we'll put that in as a value of 70,000. Okay? So, this is going to give me, this is going to put all these values are going to go into all of these columns. So I should have 15 values to go into these 15 columns. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So I've got all 15. I'm going to load them in there. I'm going to run that. Something's wrong. You want to know what? Because I didn't highlight all of it, right? This is where you put in a pound, percentage sign, and now you can run this cell. All right, so put those values in, and if I want to see what those values are, we go df.loc, and I want to have it output from df.loc. I want to see 1, 3, 5, 6, 8, 239, and we're going to run this one line, and it's going to tell me the values. Here we go. Here are the values. It didn't give me everything, right? Because it's still hiding stuff here. But if I wanted to print this, I can do that. And let's see if it gives me better information. No, same thing. So, but that you can either print it or you can just do it this way. Either way, you can do it, right? And this last line just pulls the information that I added. That's all this is doing, this last line. These last two lines. Pulls out the line I just added. All right, so that's adding data. We've talked a little bit about dropping. We talked a little about adding. So there's things to think about how to do that, right? How to create new variables or how to create new observations.